Boy, oh boy, Toledo taking on Ohio in this one. 55 is the total. 1.5, the slight favorite, Toledo here. What do you think here, Dave, of Toledo? It's been a little bit of an up and down the last month here, but here they are, slight favorite.
Well, yeah, you can throw out the last two games because they already knew they were playing in the championship game.
Yep.
They gave starters the game off basically 2 weeks back, and last game was just get through it. Ohio's played really well, but they lost Rourke. He's out for the year. The young quarterback is replacing him. I just don't think they can do the things with him that they did with Rourke, who really throws it well and is like having a second coach on the field. He's going to probably end up in the CFL like his brother. Kid can play, but they're going to miss him here. The flip side is, I really don't like teams that took those last 2 weeks off, so to speak. They've lost the momentum. I don't know. This is a big question mark for me on this game. If I had to play anything, I think I might go with the under. I think Ohio is probably going to be somewhat conservative, more run than pass. Toledo, pretty good rushing defense, decent rushing offense. I think they're also going to be more run than pass. So maybe a fast-moving game, probably close. I don't know who's going to win it, but I'll give you a lean on the under in this game.
All right, going towards the under. Ralph certainly feels like a defensive battle coming up here. Ohio's been really, really good, and they've gotten better as the season went on. What do you think we're going to get in this matchup, though?
Listen, you're not going to find – I probably can go back 10 years. You're not going to find a hotter ATS streak versus colder ATS streak. Toledo comes in with 5 straight ATS losses. Ohio comes in with 8 straight ATS wins. Now, the difference between Ohio is Rourke out for the year, you know that. Harris played last game, 15-33 on the year, only 45.5%. That makes Ohio change the office. That concerns me. This game opened at 4.5. It's now down to 1.5 because we don't know what DeQuan Finn is going to be for Toledo. I would like to do this game later in the week. They had Monday off. Today was the first day of practicing, and we would see if Finn is going to participate in practice or not. That is a huge difference. That's probably a 7-point difference, maybe a 6-point difference for me for Toledo. Having one of the best quarterbacks in the conference versus Tucker Gleason being there, who's completing 47.5% in his starts. Finn has a 21-12 ratio, but a lot of those interceptions were late. But let's remember, he was also the number 1 rusher on the team before he got injured. So you have that dual threat. So I'm going to lean under. I like the under a lot if Finn doesn't play. If Finn plays, that takes the under away. And I actually think there's some value with Toledo with the very short number now at 1.5. At 7-5, it's a team that you think, well, they lost their last 2 games. They lost as the favorite. Dave said they knew that they had clinched their spot already. But they're saying the right things. If you go to the Toledo Blade and read some of their quotes, despite being in 7-5, they say, listen, we don't have a win total record when we came into the season. Our record was to win the MAC and win the MAC championship. So, all of our goals are still ahead of us. So there is some positivity, at least from players and coaches' quotes this far. Finn's the determining factor for me, so it's sort of wait and see.
All right, going to wait and see, hold off. How about you, Vino? Is this a wait-and-see spot for you, or you got a feeling one way or the other?
Well, just to give you another aspect of where Toledo quotes are going, let's go to head coach Jason Candle, who basically said this, or didn't basically say this, a quote of what he said this week. I don't know a ton about Ohio other than crossover film. Toledo, obviously very efficient offensively. The new defensive staff has done a great job eliminating explosive plays, very similar to the defense we just played. The defense they just played was Western Michigan. DeQuan Finn started that game, looked injured. I don't know if they shoved him out there injured to try and get him ready for this or not, but he did not look good whatsoever. He got sacked despite his ability to scramble. Tucker Gleason got sacked, and all they allowed 6 sacks in that game. Their offensive line looked like a sieve. And I know Ralph and Dave both keep power ratings as well. I'd be interested to know. But for me, I went back and looked. Ralph talked about the 0-5 ATS number that Toledo has posted last 5 weeks. And I went back 5 weeks, and I have downgraded Toledo more than any team in the nation, minus 6.5 points over that span of time. The other side of the coin, I've upgraded Ohio, which speaks to the other point these guys were making, that Ohio's playing really well. They've been upgraded 7.5 points over that same time frame. That's a 14-point difference. Two teams going opposite ways. There's a real good chance that we do get backup quarterbacks facing off against each other in the championship game. It could be C.J. Harris on the Ohio side, Tucker Gleason on the other side. To Tucker Gleason's defense for Toledo, it was not his throwing hand, but he played with a broken hand last week, but it didn't matter. I mean, he couldn't get out of harm's way because the offensive line couldn't stop Western Michigan, and his passing was miserable. He's 13 of 38. 34%, a TD and a pick. The week before against Bowling Green, where, yes, they didn't care much, but they did allow season high 42 points to Bowling Green, season high 329 passing yards to Bowling Green, and Tucker Gleason goes 22 of 40, only 55%. The one thing about C.J. Harris that I would take over Tucker Gleason is listening to a Curtis Work interview last game. Curtis Work said, hey, C.J. Harris been in this program almost as long as I have. He's a third-year sophomore. He knows the entire system. He's going to be just fine. He's not Curtis Work. Curtis Work is the best QB in the conference. And Gleason is not Finn, although I think even if Finn plays, he's probably not as effective as he generally would be. I kind of like Ohio U in this game, but the number has been chewed down so far, 4.5 to 1.5. My power ratings actually suggest Ohio U should be a 0.5 point favorite here on this neutral field. So maybe there's still some wiggle room. Last 7 games, we don't know Ohio U for their defense very often. However, their last 7 games, they've only allowed 18 points per game. The highest they've given up is 24. They're only allowing 321.5 yards per game. Ohio U's defense is even on par of what Toledo's is. Toledo's has been a little worse. For a team that came into the season, guys, with what appeared to be a talent separation above all rest in the MAC, Toledo and Jason Candle, to me, are failing miserably down. It's not even the last 2 games. It's the back half of the season. I'd rather go with the hot team. And I do agree with Dave on the under because just listen to these numbers last week. Some of it due to the fact that Ohio U had a big lead in the game. But with the backup quarterback, C.J. Harris, not only were they conservative, they were ultra-conservative. They ran the ball 64 times and only put it in the air 21. That's 75% run out of Ohio U. Toledo's a pretty good run defense, which would lead me to, again, agree with Dave that this one probably stays under 55.
All right. Leaning towards the under.
I want to just throw in something. I also saw the interview with Rourke while the game was going on. He was saying all the right things, but watching Harris, he's not accurate at all. I think this, run pass options certainly there. He's got the legs, but I don't think he's got the arm. I think it's a big drop off from Rourke to Harris. Guys, what, 5 to 7 points?
Yeah.
So, and I think it comes off the offense.
Oh, yeah.
I think it comes off the offensive side for Ohio. So that's why I think it's going to be a really conservative game plan both ways.
Joe, I'm gonna finish up Rob's comment because I pulled up my power ratings. Rob, looking from 6 weeks ago, like you said, I have this game a 14-point difference.
Wow.
I have Toledo down 6, and I have Ohio up 8. So that means if this game were the beginning of November, I would make Toledo a 14-point favorite on a neutral field. So that shows that if you get Toledo and his quarterback practices this week and shows that he's semi-healthy, how much value there is on the Rockets.
Wow.
But the question is, how much do you adjust the power rating for this game with Rourke? Absolutely out. I mean, he is definitely out. And Harris, who has not been impressive. So, I mean, there has to be a downgrade in Ohio, doesn't there?
Yeah, you said 5 to 7, Dave, and I agree that, we think the best quarterbacks in the country have the biggest move. But I think the biggest move are the mid-majors because you have such a big drop-off
I
between
agree.
1 and 2. The
Yep.
great teams have great backups. The MAC teams don't have great backups. So when you get someone like Rourke, who is all conference, there's a bigger drop-off than you have at USC or Ohio State or Alabama or any of those teams.
Yep, absolutely.
And
Should be
can I say-
I believe noon on Saturday. Yep, noon in Detroit. In fact, is where this one will be.